So in this video we are going to see about dermis. So this dermis is a dynamic supportive connective tissue that is mainly composed of the extracellular matrix and the ground substance. The extracellular matrix it mainly contains the collagen elastic fibers. The ground substance it comprises the proteoglycans and glycosaminoglycans. So this ground substance is also intimately related to certain free cells of dermis like fibroblasts, mast cells, dendritic cells, macrophages, and also sometimes lymphocytes, eosinophils, and plasma cells. These plasma cells they are normally present only at the mucocutaneous junctions. So this dermis is also contains other parts like folliculosebaceous units, the apocrine and eccrine glands, blood vessels, arrector pili muscle, nerves, and their end organs. The main function of dermis is tensile strength and providing pliability and elasticity to the skin, and its thickness varies at different parts of the skin like 1 mm at the eyelids to about 5 mm at the back, and it contributes to 15 to 20% of the total body weight. So regarding organization of the dermis is mainly composed of two layers like the papillary and reticular dermis. They are divided by the subpapillary plexus. So this papillary dermis is a part beneath the epidermis and between the reed bridges, and the reticular dermis is the part between the papillary dermis and the subcutaneous tissue. There is another term called adventitious dermis, which denotes the papillary dermis and the periadnexal dermis together. So, if you see the papillary dermis along with the epidermis, it forms a morphological and functional unit. That is, in conditions like interface dermatitis, both the papillary dermis and the epidermis are altered jointly. For example, lichen planus. So here are some differences between papillary and reticular dermis. Papillary dermis forms about 1/10 of the dermis, whereas reticular is about 9/10. In papillary dermis, collagen is arranged haphazardly, whereas in reticular dermis, there is thick collagen arranged in an orthogonal pattern. Plus, here it is delicate elastic fibers, whereas in reticular dermis, we have coarse elastic fibers. And also the fibrocytes, ground substance, and blood vessels are numerous and abundant in papillary dermis, whereas they are less in reticular dermis. So this papillary dermis contains collagen fibers and oxytocin elastic fibers, whereas reticular dermis is divided into an upper and deeper zone where collagen and eulanin fibers are present in the upper zone. All those oxytocin and eulanin fibers we will be discussing later. So this extracellular matrix, it is mainly composed of three components: collagen, elastic fibers, and ground substance. So in this diagram you can see the fibroblasts, lymphocytes, and this is the collagen fiber. You can see the elastic fibers, and between them is the ground substance. So this collagen, it occupies about 70% of the dry weight of dermis, and its main property is giving tensile strength. For example, it is said that 1 mm diameter of collagen can bear up to 10 to 40 kgs of weight without breaking. So that much how is the tensile strength of collagen. So how the collagen is organized? So collagen is formed by a group of collagen fibers, so which in turn is formed by a group of collagen microfibrils, and each collagen microfibril is formed by a group of collagen molecules, and single physiological collagen molecule is called as tropocollagen. So this tropocollagen is made up of three polypeptide chains containing hydroxyproline, hydroxylysine, and glycine. So here you can see the pre-pro collagen, by self-assembly it becomes pro-collagen, and with the pro-collagen has a triple helix structure. So this pro-collagen, with the help of pro-collagen peptidase, it becomes tropocollagen, and tropocollagen after self-assembly in two steps, it becomes a collagen fiber. So there are 13 types of connective tissue collagen identified, out of which 6 are found to be in human skin, of which type 1 and type 3 collagen are the major types. So this type 1 collagen, it forms about 80% and is mainly present in the reticular dermis arranged in an orthogonal pattern, and function as we know already is a tensile strength. Then this type 3 collagen, it is previously called as reticulin. It occupies about only 15%. It is present usually in the whole thickness of dermis, but mainly it occupies the adventitial dermis, and it is present around blood vessels and adipocytes also. Its main function is anchorage of epidermis to dermis at the basement membrane zone. Next is type 4. It is present at the basement membrane junction around nerve smooth muscles also. And then type 5, it is present at the surface of the cells, that it forms the immediate interface between the cells and its immediate environment. It is also present around blood vessels and lamina lucida. And the type 6 collagen, since it contains more quantity of disulfide bonds, it is unusual, and it is present along nerves, blood vessels, and adipocytes like other collagen. And main function is assembly of the dermal collagenous matrix. And the type 7 collagen, it is a major structural component of the anchoring fibrils. So this anchoring fibrils is a part of the basement membrane zone. So it lies just beneath the basal lamina of the basement membrane zone. So along with the type 4, it anchors the dermoepidermal junction to the dermis. So if you see this type 3 collagen, it anchors epidermis to dermis to the basement membrane zone, whereas type 7 collagen, it anchors dermoepidermal junction to the dermis. So here you can see the collagen. Here's the type 1, 2 and 3, and the type 7 collagen present to the anchoring fibrils, and here is the type 4 collagen present in the lamina densa at the basement membrane junction. So here is the synthesis of collagen. Synthesis of collagen, it mainly includes 3 steps. Number 1 is the formation of procollagen. Number 2 is the transport of procollagen through the Golgi apparatus, and number 3 is the extracellular step. So can explain you the steps now. So first, it is initiated inside the fibrocytes, where the mRNA, that is the messenger RNA, is translated to the production of procollagen. So what it happens inside the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The first one is protein folding. Next one is hydroxylation step, which is assisted by prolyl and lysyl hydroxylases, and the next step is N-glycosylation, which is the third step. And the fourth step is self-assembly and disulfide bond formation. And the fifth step is triple helix formation, which is called as procollagen. I know it doesn't look like a triple helix. Okay, the procollagen is formed. So some of the important events in the step are: first one is mRNA, second one the hydroxylation step assisted by prolyl and lysyl hydroxylases, for which ascorbic acid, iron, oxygen and alpha ketoglutarate they act as cofactors. And this post-translational hydroxylation of proline residues, it's the rate limiting step, is the entire collagen synthesis. So what's the function of hydroxyproline and hydroxylysine? This hydroxyproline, it stabilizes the 3D conformation of collagen, whereas the hydroxylysine, it helps in the subsequent glycosylation reactions and cross-linking of collagen. So here the next step is the transfer of procollagen by the Golgi apparatus. So what happens is the procollagen, the triple helix structure, it is packaged inside the Golgi apparatus and it is transported through the cell. So next step, there is cleavage of N and C terminal peptidases. So why this cleavage occurs? Because to avoid premature polymerization of the peptidases. See. Next is the extracellular step. So here you can see the cleavage of peptidases and then the fibril self-assembly. This is the tropocollagen. So procollagen, after the cleavage of peptidases, it becomes the tropocollagen, and then the fibrils, they undergo self-assembly, and then is the extracellular step. So what's important in the extracellular step is the intramolecular and intermolecular cross-linking of the collagen fibrils to form a collagen fiber. So this cross-linking is mainly assisted by lysyl oxidase, for which copper acts as a cofactor and it provides the tensile strength needed for the collagen. So what are the applied aspects for this collagen? As we all know, it helps in wound healing, and in aging skin the collagen becomes non-reducible and more stable, which explains the reduced extensibility of the skin in old age. And those macrophages, polymorphonuclear nucleocytes and neutrophils and fibrocytes, they produce collagenase, so which plays a role in the remodeling of collagen. This alpha-1 antitrypsin and alpha-2 macroglobulin, they are physiological inhibitors of this collagenase. And then keloids and recessive epidermolysis bullosa dystrophica, in this there is increased amount of collagenase, which explains the blister formation at the upper dermis in this condition. So next is the elastic fibers. This elastic fibers, in contrast to collagen, it contributes only to 3% of the dry weight of dermis. So what is the main function of this elastic fiber is that After a deforming force, it helps the skin to come back to its original shape. So it is wavy and branching unlike the collagen fibers. So in conditions like scarring conditions, dermatofibroma, and hereditary defects like cutis laxa, pseudoxanthoma elasticum, they are either decreased or absent. So this on electron microscopy, the elastic fibers, they are found to consist of two types of fibers. One is elastin and another one is microfibrils. So this elastin is mainly responsible for the extensibility, resilience and elasticity, whereas microfibrils, they stabilizes the elastic fibers at a whole. So there are three types of elastic fibers. One is oxytalin, eulanin and elastic fibers. So here you can see this is the dermoepidermal junction. So these oxytalin fibers, they are the most superficial and they are arranged perpendicular to the dermoepidermal junction, and they are attached to the eulanin fibers. So these eulanin fibers in turn, they are attached to the elastic fibers. So these eulanin fibers are mostly, they form a plexus with the papillary dermis, which forms spherules called as elastic globules. And these elastic fibers, as seen in the picture, they are present in the reticular dermis. So the biochemical features, this elastin is formed by tropoelastin and it's rich in valine and alanine, but devoid of methionine and cysteine. In this, the glycine is distributed randomly, in contrast to collagen, where glycine is present in every third position and it is extremely insoluble and resistant to chemical actions. So this tropoelastin is converted to elastin with the help of lysyl 6 oxidase. And the proteins present in elastin include fibrillin 1, fibrillin 2, microfibril associated proteins, and microfibril associated glycoproteins. So as in the case of collagenases, so this alpha-1 antitrypsin and alpha-2 macroglobulin, they are also physiological inhibitors of elastases. So next is the ground substance. The ground substance is nothing but an amorphous extracellular material which enmeshes the fibrillar and cellular components in the dermis. So this is the ground substance. As we know already, the ground substance, they comprise mainly of the proteoglycans and glycoproteins and also the free cells of the dermis. Its components include water, electrolytes, plasma proteins and mucopolysaccharides. Mucopolysaccharide is nothing but a polysaccharide that is covalently linked to a polypeptide. So it comprises only about 0.2% of the dry weight of dermis. So these proteoglycans and glycoproteins, they bind to two things. One is water and another one is a fibroblast growth factor. So by binding to water, they contribute to the dermal volume and compressibility. And by fibroblast growth factor, they contribute to proliferation, differentiation, tissue repair and morphogenesis. So next is the fibrocytes. And these fibrocytes, they produce contain the glycosaminoglycans, of which hyaluronic acid and dermatan sulfate are the major parts, and others include heparin sulfate and heparin. In histopathology, these ground substance appear as empty spaces between the collagen bundles. So you need special stains like Alchian blue and colloidal iron. So these mucopolysaccharides, they are found in the papilla of hair, eccrine glands and adventitial dermis. And the functions include electrolyte balance, and due to their high viscosity, they act as a support for the matrix, wound healing, collagen organization, etc. And the applied aspects, so this mucin synthesis, that is nothing but the mucopolysaccharide synthesis, is affected by the thyroid hormones. So that's why in conditions like pretibial myxedema, we can see the excess deposition of mucin, and in inborn errors of mucopolysaccharide metabolism, there will be increased deposition of mucin. So in old age, there will be increase in dermatan sulfate and decrease in chondroitin 6 sulfate. Other glycoproteins found in matrix include fibronectin, laminin, thrombospondin, vitronectin, tenacin, etc. So the free cells in dermis we saw already. Few points about those. So this fibroblast, as found in the picture, it is spindle shaped and contains elongated nuclei. They synthesize collagen, and in immunohistochemistry, they stand for vimentin. They respond to immune mediators also, and the fibroblasts is found to be the only connective tissue to contain acid mucopolysaccharides. Next is the dendritic cells. So they differ from fibroblasts in that stellate contour. They are mostly perivascular in location but can be found anywhere in the dermis, and they express CD1C and then factor 13A, CD34, HLA-DR, cytoplasmic transglutaminase, etc. So this factor 13A positive cells, they are found to be found in Kaposi sarcoma, dermatofibroma during scar formation, There is one name called dendrophages, which means phagocytic perivascular dendritic cells. So macrophages, they are also called as histiocytes. So this monocytes on stimulation they become macrophages, so which results in increase in cell size and increase in lysosomal enzymes like aryl sulfidase, lysozyme, etc. So this macrophages they can be of epithelioid histiocytes or foreign body germ cells, and aggregates of macrophages they can form granulomas. So its main function is in the reticuloendothelial system, which has been renamed as mononuclear phagocytic system. So you can have two types of phagocytes. One is professional phagocytes and another one is facultative phagocytes. So these professional phagocytes they ingest the infectious particles, for example mainly they ingest the large particles and they form phagolysosomes, whereas these facultative phagocytes they mostly do pinocytosis of small particles and they do not do any immunostimulation. So professional phagocytes example includes alveolar cells in the lung, Kupffer cells in the liver, and facultative phagocytes examples include reticulum cells of the lymph nodes and endothelial cells of the blood vessels. So monocytes and lymphocytes they more or less look the same. How they differ is monocyte they look more bigger than the lymphocytes, and they are positive for acid phosphatase CD68 and CD163. So what are macrophages? They are nothing but activated monocytes about 20 to 80 micrometer, and macrophages with ingested melanin are called as melanophages. With ingested hemosiderin they are called as siderophages. And they can stain with Prussian blue stain. So here you can see the macrophage and monocyte. The macrophage is normally it's bigger than the monocyte. Monocyte is 12 to 15 micrometer, whereas the macrophage is 20 to 80 micrometer. Plus there will be more amount of lysosomal enzymes in macrophage than monocyte. And also this macrophage has an if you see it has an irregular outline unlike the monocyte. So the mast cells they are oval to spindle shaped cells with central round to oval nucleus. They have a fried egg appearance. They are mainly present in the papillary dermis around the blood vessels and appendages. There are two types. One is connective tissue mast cells and mucosal mast cells. So they have a methylene blue stain and they contain histamine, neutrophils, eosinophilic chemotactic factors, etc. So we know on IgE mediated there will be degranulation and they produce leukotriene C4, D4, platelet activating factor and prostaglandin D2. On electron microscopy they appear to have villi and granules with perigranular membrane. There are two components, one is lamellae and granular material. So these mast cells in the dermis they are found to have both chymase and tryptase, whereas in the mucosa they are found to have only tryptase. So they have 100,000 to 500,000 receptor sites for immunoglobulin E. On any exogenous stimuli, there will be immunoglobulin E cross-linkage with mast cells and they produce degranulation. Immunohistochemistry markers seek it and on leader's reaction it produces a billion red color. Applied aspects we know its hypersensitivity, mastocytosis, etc. And then emigrant inflammatory cells. So what are these emigrant inflammatory cells? These are nothing but inflammatory infiltrates found in the dermis in certain conditions. Okay, there are three groups. One is granulocytic and then lymphocytic and monocytic or macrophagic. These are the cells involved in these three groups. So dermal muscle cells, they are smooth muscles and striated muscles. So the smooth muscles are involuntary, whereas striated they are voluntary. Smooth muscles we have nucleus in the center and there is absence of striation, whereas striated muscle there will be nucleus at the periphery. And the smooth muscles of dermis they are mainly present in the erector pylorus and the dartos of the external genitalia and the areola of the nipples. Whereas the striated muscle in the dermis is present in the skin of neck, for example the platysma, and the muscles of expression in the face. So here's a small mention about fibronectin. So this fibronectin is a principal component of the ground substance. It is a class of glycoproteins and is present in the surface of the cells. So there are two types. One is in the cell surface and another is the plasma fibronectin. Cell surface fibronectin is mainly present on fibrocytes and monocytes, whereas plasma is mainly present on hepatocytes. So this fibronectin it binds to collagen, fibrin or fibrinogen, and then this binding is assisted by factor 13A. So it helps in the addition of fibrocytes to cell membranes, collagen and fibrin, and chemotaxis of fibrocytes, monocytes and endothelial cells. During embryogenesis, it helps in cellular motility, the wound healing, clot stabilization, nerve regeneration, etc. It is also seen in increased amount in tissues with inflammatory and neoplastic growth. So here you can see the association between the fibrinogen and collagen. It's fibronectin and collagen. So this is all about dermis. If there is any gross mistake in this video, you can just report it to me. I can change it. Thank you.